It had been years since I allowed myself a place of rest. After serving in the military and then working grueling decades to build a modest logistics company from the ground up, I had finally sold everything and bought a quiet cabin by the lake. This wasn't just any lake. It was the same one my father used to take me fishing on as a boy. He'd sit me on the worn planks of a little wooden dock and tell me, "Son, life is like the water, some days calm, some days stormy. But if you're patient enough, it always gives back." When he passed, I promised myself I'd return one day. And I did. I bought the land, the water rights, and even the forgotten lake bed. But I didn't tell anyone. To the locals, I was just another quiet man moving into a lakeside property. The first few weeks were peaceful. I'd wake early, take out my small aluminum fishing boat, and drift into the fog-covered water. I wasn't looking for trophy fish, just peace, the kind of peace that had escaped me for so long. But peace rarely lasts. One morning, while pulling my boat onto the shore, I noticed 3 people waiting near my driveway. They stood together like guards, 2 men in polo shirts and a woman clutching a clipboard. Her lips were pursed so tight it looked like she hadn't smiled in years. "Excuse me, sir," she called, walking toward me briskly. "We need to discuss your violations." I blinked, confused. "Violations?" "Yes," she said, flipping through her clipboard. "This property falls under the Lakeside Meadows Homeowners Association. According to Section 14, subsection C, no personal watercraft is allowed to be docked or stored on community property." I frowned. Community property? I thought this was my shoreline. "It belongs to all of us," one of the men interrupted. "Your boat can't sit here. It's unsightly and against guidelines. You'll need to move it within 48 hours or face a fine." I wanted to laugh at the absurdity. My boat was small, barely noticeable, and certainly not an eyesore. But I could see in their stern expressions that this wasn't a request, it was an order. The woman leaned in slightly. "We're a tight-knit community, and rules are rules. If you want to live here, you'll need to follow them." Something inside me stirred. I dealt with arrogant superiors, demanding clients, and even foreign officials in tense negotiations. But nothing tested my patience like a group of entitled neighbors waving imaginary authority. Still, I stayed calm. "I'll look into it," I said, carrying my fishing gear inside. That night, I sat on the porch, staring at the lake shimmering under the moonlight. My father's voice echoed in my memory, "Be patient, son. Water always gives back." I decided not to react immediately. Instead, I wanted to see just how far they'd push. And they did. Over the next week, I received letters taped to my door. Each one was harsher than the last. Words like "final notice" and "penalty" jumped out in bold red letters. I even caught one of them snapping photos of my boat, as if building a case against me. It wasn't just about the boat anymore. It was about control. And they assumed I had none. What they didn't know was that every inch of this water, the waves, the fish beneath, the very dock they believed was community property, belonged to me. I just hadn't told them yet. The breaking point came on a Saturday afternoon. The HOA had gathered at the community gazebo for what they proudly called their monthly meeting. I decided it was time to attend. As I approached, the woman with the clipboard, her name was Karen, fittingly, was already mid-sentence, her shrill voice carrying across the lake. "And we must enforce these guidelines strictly, or we risk lowering property values. That boat is just the beginning. If we let one person get away with it, soon this whole place will be a dumping ground." Several neighbors nodded in agreement. Others shifted uncomfortably, clearly tired of the constant policing but too timid to speak. I waited until she finished before stepping forward. "Excuse me," I said, my voice calm but firm. "I think this discussion concerns me." Karen's eyes lit up like a predator spotting prey. "Yes, Mr. Walker. We've been waiting for you. Are you prepared to comply and remove the boat?" I took a deep breath, feeling every eye on me. This was the moment. "No," I said simply. Gasps rippled through the group. Karen's face flushed red. "Then you leave us no choice but to fine you. And if you continue to defy the HOA, we'll escalate this legally." I nodded slowly. "That's fair. But before you do, I think you should understand something. I reached into my folder and pulled out a stack of papers. Deeds, water rights, and ownership documents, everything I had purchased when I bought the cabin. I handed them to the nearest neighbor, who began reading aloud, his eyes widening with every page. "What is this?" Karen demanded. "It's proof," I said, "that I own the lake. Not just my shoreline. Not just my dock. The entire body of water you all use for fishing, swimming, and boating. It's mine. Which means, technically, every kayak, every jet ski, every pontoon boat out there is on my property." The crowd fell silent. Karen's jaw dropped. "That's impossible." "Not impossible," I corrected. "Just something no one bothered to check. While you've been threatening me over my little fishing boat, I've been paying taxes on the water you claim as community property." A murmur spread through the group. Some looked shocked, others amused. A few even smiled, as if silently cheering me on. I stepped closer, lowering my voice but making sure everyone could hear. "I didn't move here to cause trouble. I came for peace. I don't want to control anyone, fine anyone, or stop anyone from enjoying the lake. But if you think you can bully me with fake authority, think again. This water doesn't answer to your clipboard. It answers to me." The silence was so heavy you could hear the wind brushing through the trees. Finally, an alderman stood up. "I say we let the man keep his boat. He's done nothing wrong." Others quickly agreed. The tide had shifted. Karen's reign of control had crumbled in a single moment. From that day forward, the letters stopped. No more fines, no more threats. Some neighbors even began waving when I passed, their cold stares replaced with reluctant respect. But the best part wasn't their silence, it was the peace that followed. For the first time in years, I felt my father's words ring true. The lake had given back. Not just a place of rest, but a reminder, sometimes the quietest strength is the most powerful. Sparkle's closing message for viewers. So the next time someone tries to push you down with rules they made up just to feel powerful, remember this story. Remember that true authority doesn't come from a title, or a clipboard, or even a neighborhood committee. It comes from knowing who you are, standing your ground, and refusing to let others steal your peace. And just like the lake, if you stay patient, the truth always finds its way back to the surface.